OpenAI and SoftBank have announced a new project called Stargate. What is it? It is a really interesting idea for an AI data center of the future. That kind of decentralizes the training process and brings compute to where the data is. Here at the AI Advantage, we love talking about large language models, LLMs, generative AI, all that stuff. We talk about the big picture stuff like how these models are trained on massive data sets and require huge amounts of compute and specialized hardware like GPUs and TPUs. But training these models isn't just a one-off thing. Once the initial model is trained, it needs to be fine-tuned and updated regularly, and this is where the Stargate project comes in. So the OpenAI blog post describes this as a pilot program. They're actually building out what they call localized compute hubs. So instead of having one giant data center somewhere that you send your data to, they're going to bring compute to where the data is or where the data can be, quote, aggregated more easily. It's a little bit fuzzy what that means exactly. The way I understand it is they taking some of their trained models, and they basically putting little pieces of them on edge servers, closer to where the end users are. This has the advantage of being able to serve low latency requests much better than you could with a centralized system. And this is important because many of these AI applications need to be relatively low latency to be useful. If you're doing something like autonomous driving, you can't really afford the several hundred milliseconds of latency that you might get if you had to send your data all the way to a centralized server farm and back. So by bringing the compute closer to where the data is generated, you can reduce the latency and make these applications more responsive. The other thing is that this allows for more fine-tuning of models on specific data sets. So now with something like chat, everybody gets the same responses, but imagine if the responses were tailored to your specific situation. For example, if you're a doctor, the model would know that and would be able to give you information in a way that's relevant to your field. Or if you're a software engineer, it could give you information in a way that's relevant to your job. Right now, we already have some of this with things like LangChain and its different plugins. But I think the idea here is to push this stuff further and make it even more customized to the user's needs. The blog post mentions that the first hub will be coming online soon in Japan and will serve customers in the Asia-Pacific region, and the second hub will come online later this year in the United States. They also mentioned that this is a partnership between SoftBank and OpenAI, and the way I understand it is that SoftBank is contributing some of their edge computing infrastructure to this effort. Now, I'm curious to see how this partnership evolves over time. Will there be other companies involved? Maybe, but I think it is interesting that OpenAI is thinking about ways to decentralize their infrastructure and make it more resilient. Because right now, as we know, they rely heavily on Microsoft Azure for their cloud infrastructure. And while that's been a good partnership so far, it does create some potential single points of failure, and it also makes sense from a business perspective to explore other options, especially as the competitive landscape for AI services heats up. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button below. Also remember to subscribe. You can also check out my other videos, which I think you might find interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.